Okay, I want to start this video by saying, yes, I think $80 is a lot of money, and I completely understand all the current outrage about Nintendo announcing $80 and $90 games. However, I still think that $80 games aren't necessarily the worst thing ever, and I wanted to make this video to play devil's advocate and open this up to a bigger discussion about video game prices, because honestly, they don't make any sense, and I think we're well overdue for a change. So first of all, some context. The Switch 2 just went on sale for pre-orders. The console itself is $450, $500 if you bundle it with Mario Kart, and there was a rumor floating around that Switch games would be $80 digital and $90 physical. First of all, I want to get out of the way. That was a rumor and isn't true, and what Nintendo's doing for the Switch 2 is implementing variable prices for all of their games. Mario Kart is $80 while Donkey Kong is $70. But to be fair, if you get the Switch 2 bundle, Mario Kart is $50 instead of $80, assuming you can get the bundle. When I went to pre-order, I got the last Switch 2 GameStop had, which didn't come with Mario Kart, so I had to buy the game separately, and I begrudgingly paid the $80 for it. Historically, AAA games have been $60 since the 90s, and the argument is that eventually they need to increase the price. A $60 game in 1990, adjusted for inflation, is roughly $150 today. So with that in mind, one could argue that developers are long overdue for a price increase. But from the 90s, the volume of sales has also increased. But should Mario Kart World be a third of the price of Super Mario Kart for the NES when adjusted for inflation? I don't think so. Games have been $60 for decades. That's been the standard. But recently, we've seen Zelda, Final Fantasy, and Call of Duty all responding by releasing $70 games. And while most people weren't the biggest fans of this decision, they at least understood it with that inflation argument. And the same thing is being used to argue for $80 games. Nintendo's rationale here is that Mario Kart is a game you'll be playing for a while. Heck, the last one we've been playing for a decade, and we'll still have it on the Switch too. Whereas Donkey Kong is $70 because it's a highly polished single-player game. There's not as much replayability, but one could argue they're selling a finished product for $70 when many similar games are sold for $60 and are buggy, unfinished messes with a DLC expansion they're gonna get in 6 months for another $30. I'm not happy about price increases. They hurt the consumer more than anything, but I'm also not a fan of predatory monetization practices. Most AAA games now have DLC, they have microtransactions, they have battle passes, paid cosmetics. That's fine in my opinion for games like Fortnite, where its free-to-play nature makes it accessible. It gives you the option to pay if you want to play as Goku. When I first started playing Fortnite, I paid $10 for the battle pass, and that was it for like 4 years. I stand by that being a good choice by Epic Games. Making the game free means more people can play it, and since you have to make money somehow, making those purchases optional cosmetics is fine. But the problem is paid games do the same thing. Call of Duty should not be $70 and have the amount of microtransactions, battle passes, and other monetization efforts baked in. It should be $70 or have microtransactions, not both. So when Nintendo comes around and says, hey, here's Tears of the Kingdom, it's a finished game, no DLC, $70, 100 hours of gameplay, at least minimum, I'm much more inclined to take that offer. AAA games used to be more, used to be less. Heck, Doom 64 was $75 when it came out. That's like $115 today. Not to say it was the correct thing to do, but I at least understand it. But despite my argument, it all comes apart when you start talking about indie games have always been priced the most reasonably out of any other type of game. Celeste, Hyper Light Drifter, $20. Hollow Knight, Stardew Valley, $15. Undertale, Papers, Please, $10. These are all amazing games. Is Forspoken 6 times better than Undertale? No, well, it's 6 times the price. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Buy UFO 50. It has 50 great games for $25. They are all peak. It's hard to argue that games should be $80 when arguably some of the best games ever made are barely $20. But the problem is these games are so great partially because of their price point. Nobody's buying Undertale for $60. It's arguably better than a lot of $60 games, but with indie games, the price is a promise from the developer. If the game is $1, it's a quick, short game. If it's $5, there's some depth. If it's $10, there's some replayability. There's a decent couple hours of gameplay. If it's $20, there is some real polish here. But this doesn't extrapolate to the game's full quality. AAA games are $60 because they have to pay the studio that made it. They have to pay the publisher. They have to pay the marketing, the executives. Indie studios have to pay for the small team of like 5 dudes who made it. If a AAA game makes $1 million, it doesn't even break even. But if an indie game makes $1 million, the developer is set for life. So a big team can make a big game, but the problem is just because it costs that much to create the game, that doesn't mean that the game's quality is worth $60. And that's why it's so funny when these games go on sale. sale. The AAA game goes on sale to recoup its losses, and the successful indie game goes on sale just to get more people to play the game. I think this entire system of video game prices needs to be reevaluated, and there's only a handful of AAA developers that I think are worthy of that $60 price tag. Nintendo knocks it out of the park most of the time. I mean, Mario Odyssey, Breath of the Wild, Mario Kart 8, these are genre-defining titles. They have a AAA budget with an indie workflow. Team sizes are smaller, letting them spend longer on games so they can be polished while someone else works on another game. And if the product is polished, if I'll be playing it for the next 10 years, I'm fine with paying $80 for it if it's going to be that experience that I will keep coming back to. If it's not polished, and if there's a DLC next year, I'm gonna say that's stupid, greedy, and unfair. The promise of an $80 game from Nintendo is that it will be better than anything I've ever played before. It will blow my mind, and I will play it for a long time. If that's what the product is, I think that's a fair assessment. I'm not paying that for Paper Mario Color Splash. That's the key difference here. I think the fact that Nintendo's doing variable pricing helps their case here. If Donkey Kong is truly on the same level as Mario Odyssey, if it's a complete game, I'll gladly pay $70 for it. If you bought Mario Odyssey in 2018 for full price, you're paying the equivalent of $75 today, adjusted for inflation. We can all agree that Mario Odyssey is worth that $60, and I'm fine with paying that, assuming the game is of the same quality. Here's the problem though. If this works, the entire industry is gonna suck. Activision's gonna make COD $80. GTA 6 is rumored to be $100. But if we're gonna be playing GTA 6 for the next 15 years like we did with GTA 5, that price point might be reasonable. My entire point here is I think the $60 AAA game standard is outdated. I think games should try to value themselves based on the value they offer to the customer. Assassin's Creed shouldn't be $60. It should be $30. Scale it back a little, make the gameplay good, and you have a great game. $30 for Assassin's Creed and you're like doing parkour? That's awesome. Mario Kart can be $80, but it better be a premium experience. I can give a game like Undertale any criticism I want, but for $10, it is an unbeatable deal for that experience. By implementing variable pricing, my hope is that studios genuinely value their games as they are. I know they're not gonna do it because they're stupid, but it would be the right move. Right now, if I see a $40 or $50 AAA game, there is no reason to buy it. A game being in that price range tells me the developer has no faith in it. Make a smaller game for $30, make a bigger game for $60, make your masterpiece for $80. I think by changing the way we look at video game prices as a whole, the industry will be a lot better for it, and we could be a lot more experimental, which is necessary in the bland AAA landscape that we currently exist in. Do I think every game should be $60? No. Do I think every game should be $80? Hell no. I think game developers should seriously look at the product they're making and give consumers a fair price point that accurately describes the value of what they will buy. Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour being $10, that should be free. That should be part of the system. If Mario Kart's value is $80, it's $80. If it's 10, it's 10. That's what matters. Oblivion just got remastered. The original game is $15 on Steam. The remaster is $50. It's a hefty remaster. It looks impressive. I think $50 is a fair price point to ask for something like that, but honestly, it could have been $40. As an industry, I think we're at the point where consumers just want a complete game at a fair price. And if we're valuing games from the early 2000s with modern graphics at $50, maybe, just maybe, we think about the type of games we make. But thank you guys so much for listening to me rant. I have 2 videos right here talking about indie games. If you want some games that are peak and affordable, check them out. Check out my Stardew channel where I'm playing Stardew Valley every day of 2025. I'll be deleting the channel at the end of the year. Check out my podcast Rumble Pack and my shorts, which I upload nearly every day on YouTube. I did not go back in my seat at all.